Chapter 11. Moving to Michigan. The build-up to Michigan was a year in the making. John was coaching. He was going to college for coaching. And he was coaching for Cortland. He was on the defensive side of the ball. He was doing really well. He was running his course. It was coming to an end. He was graduating. He was looking ahead after Cortland. At this point, I knew that it was going to be somewhere in Michigan. Back then, I didn't understand that I had the ability to see others' perspective. I thought that people were simple creatures and that if you watch them long enough, you can predict what they're going to do. And I always believed in my gut. And I always believed that I had this thing where everything balanced out. I'm coming to learn that is not the case. But I had a thing where if everything was great, something had to go wrong in the opposite direction because life balances itself out. That is not necessarily true. That ended up being that way because I was looking for it. And I happened to learn that if you are looking for it, you will find it. So I have this thing where everything's going great, so I gotta look for it to bounce back the other way. I'm stopped doing that. That is not how life works. Life works the way you want it to work. Life works the way you look at it. Anyways, now I know that it's not. If you watch people and you study them, you can learn their perspective. That's a much different thing than trying to guess what they're going to do next. So he had put his application into everything else, or into all other stuff. We could have been to Florida, could have been to other places. I kind of knew that it was going to Michigan, which makes sense because his family is here. He was afraid of failing. A lot of people are afraid of failing. So he had a safety net just in case. I am no longer take that aspect of life. I am willing to fail. You're not going to do something perfect if you do not fail. So we were looking at other schools and he came across Western Michigan. He had a tie into Western Michigan. His father worked for a diner who catered all the time for Western Michigan, so he had an input into Western Michigan. Like he had a kind of like a backdoor shoe-in way into Michigan. This was a intense decision. Me and my wife had to decide if we were going to follow him to Michigan. He finally made his choice and picked Western Michigan. And in doing so, I had made this outrageous task. I wanted a house that wasn't in Kalamazoo. I wasn't going to live in Kalamazoo because, according to everybody else, Kalamazoo is the Elmira. Didn't want to live there. So I said I wanted a house and I wanted a fireplace because winters are not my fan. Not a fan of winters. He had left in January. The plan was to stay until the children passed their grade that they're in. So I don't know if you can hear that. No, you can't hear it. Stupid advertisements. Anyways, so we were there for 6 months. We moved out of the house that we were living on in Hamilton. We We went to a house, an apartment. It was just a smaller apartment. It had what we needed. It was adorable. Um, so we moved in. It was cute. We only knew it was for such and such. Like, our date to move was June 24th, 5th. Like, after the children's last day of school. He had moved. He taken his stuff, and then he had come up to visit a couple times for the children, and he had taken stuff back with him. Made the overall move less. As time got closer and closer, the tensions got higher. I didn't want to go. My wife Chelsea didn't want to go. Our family is in New York. We understand his family's here, but our family's up there. So one of the other circumstances was for him to graduate, and that was it, because he was saying that he could, and he's right, a coach could be taken anywhere, and we weren't going to spend the rest of our lives following him. We wanted to set our own roots. So we were supposed to be here for 2 years. Tensions got high because I kept backing out. This led to conflict between me and my wife because she was dead set on the children being in the right spot. And of course, like always, she is right. We do have support of my family and friends. My family's old-fashioned, so at first they didn't understand, but they do support, and they have come around. Just things have gotten hard at home, so me living here is more of a stress. So we're getting closer to the time. Kids' last day of school, we found a house. We come to visit John. We take the kids. We come to visit John. He had found a house that fit our budget, had a fireplace, had 4 bedrooms, and was on a lake. I couldn't believe he did it. We moved in. It was a fixer-upper. The last people weren't really good at taking care of this. That is my job, at taking care of stuff, so I got that. So I can see the beauty in something, even though nobody else can. I get that from my father. He had bought a $500 trailer that needed to be renovated, but he can see the potential it had. So I thank him for that. So we see the house, we agree upon the house, but we can't move in until August. Right now, at that point, he was living with his brother. He had enough room for the children. We wanted to get Johnny up here as soon as possible so he can start football. So we let him take Hari and Johnny, and me, Chelsea, and Logan stayed with my sister-in-law. That was one of the toughest months I've ever gone through, not having the children. I mean, at that point, we had gone from a week on, a week off to living together. So not having them run around the house every morning and staying up every night was heartbreaking, but we knew that it was the best way. During this time, my wife was working for an elderly home. One of the residents had gotten a little rough and she had hurt. I know it was in her arm. I think it was in her elbow. She was off work for a couple weeks. We were worried about missing that time, needing more money. So we stayed as long as we could It was a couple days before the move-in date. She took me and Logan, my sister, and my now brother-in-law. They rode up with us, came down to drop us off so that I can get everybody, situated in the house, and that she can stay behind for a month and make that money that we were missing, that we're gonna miss, that we thought we needed. So we ended up doing this. That was the hardest month I've ever lived. They spent the night that night. She was in the bed with all the children, saying goodbye to her. I knew I was going to see her in a month, but it was extremely, extremely difficult. I had it written on a calendar. I was counting down. I spent every day posting a different picture of her. Like, I was trying to stay in good spirits. She was staying with a friend at that time who was, they can call her pull to work because they worked together, but they were out in bumfuck Egypt. So her cell reception sucked. So there was times I couldn't talk to her. It was very stressful. She was keeping herself occupied. She was keeping herself busy. She was doing everything she could in order to pass the time. I had taken care of the kids. It was really easy to do. Like, it was nothing. Like, I unpacked the whole house by myself. I cleaned. I waited for the guys to come put the carpets in, brand new carpets in. Like, I had handled everything, but it wasn't passing the time. So there was a amount of times where I was just sitting on the back porch, staring off into nothing. I had fallen into depression. This is the first time in my life I had ever done this. I couldn't get a hold of her sometimes. It made me anxiety-ridden because I didn't know if she was okay. It just hurt. And with that, when you're hurt down like that, your brain wanders to stuff it really shouldn't, stuff you know better. So I was thinking that she was out with her friend and partying and doing all this stuff and enjoying not having any of us. But that's what depression can do, because in reality, she was just keeping herself occupied so she wasn't depressed, so she could make it back to us. She had come. It had gotten closer and closer to her coming home. We'd gotten to some arguments about our ways of dealing with stuff. Again, I was depressed, so everything was just really, really touchy. She'd spent the last night. It was my sister's birthday. My sister had just turned 21, so they went out. Half of me was excited about her spending that time with my sister because she was about to lose her. According to my sister, we do visit twice a year, but it's really hard to drive from here to New York and back. It's a nine and a half hour trip because kids gotta pee and eat. But I just wanted her home. I wanted her to leave as soon as possible. I should have just given her more time. See, if I had the mindset I do now, that month would have been nothing. Would have been able to do it. Would have been so supportive, but I just reached a low point in my life. She had left that morning. I had put the kids on the bus for their first day at school. She had pulled up like an hour after that, and I can still feel it. I feel it every time when she's like, I'm on my way from work, or I'm on my way from this, and I see the car pull up. It feels like a relief. I am so, like a puppy, I'm so happy to see her. But she got here, and everything seemed to be getting better. Everything seemed to be getting back on track. Um, but it turns out that was all a cover up. That was all a ploy. Um, I was still just coming out of depression. Apparently, I hadn't come all the way out. She had come back here. She had, of course, they were married, her and John, so his family was like her family. So she had met up with family members that she hadn't talked to in a while. She had made new friends from work, and she was, you know, everything was okay with us, but she was going out more. And when she got back, I just wanted all of her attention to me. So I went from depression to this jealousy. Didn't have to, but I felt like I had to text her all the time. Where are you? What are you doing? Sometimes she would go in the morning and go hang out with a friend, have coffee. She did the home life thing. She made friends there. And she could make friends anywhere. She hung out with John's aunt because they were really close. And I just got jealous. I went from depression to jealousy. There were some times where she was hanging out and she would forget her phone in the car, and I would flip out. I'd also flip out because I wasn't paying attention to the little things she was doing for me. I couldn't get out of my headspace. I just kept trying to justify, well, wait a second, you're doing this for everybody else. What about me? What about me? What about me? What about me? This must mean they don't, we don't care. We spend a lot of time arguing and fighting, which led to me. I had a couple things going to lead back into depression, or never never getting out of it. Oh, wow. Stumble over my words because I really don't like this part of me. Really didn't like the jealousy part of me. I wanted to be home too. And I believed that she didn't want to be home anymore. That she didn't want to go back. That this was now her spot. And it was easy for me to think that way because I thought that she was going to make this move easy because of all the people she knew here. And that this was her home at one point. So I figured that that's why she wanted to be here. I really, really didn't see any other perspective except for mine. So I completely shut down. We would have barbecues here. We would have get-togethers. I missed out on, swimming at the beach. Depression left me feeling empty inside and left my gut. And I wasn't in the mood for anybody's anything. I was just pissy all the time. It compounded worse with the fact that my best friend Chris, his father had died from Huntington's, and he has the genetic markers for Huntington's. He's not diagnosed yet, but he has it. We watched what had happened to his father, so I had that. Instead of being there for him, I was using it about, trying to make everything about me. It gotten really bad. I had tried several times to start climbing out of it, and every time I would let go. It's at the point where Johnny can take care of his brother and sister. He's plenty old enough. Ari can. She's plenty smart enough. But I didn't want to give up the reins of being caregiver, so I refused to get a job. I refused to get a soul-sucking job because this has been my job. I refuse to look at it that my kids don't need me at that level anymore, that we have taught them well, instead of looking at it like that, like I do now, and being proud of them and smiling and laughing about it. I threw a hissy fit. I really don't like this part of me. Looking back at it now, knowing the things I do now. However, everything has led up to me being a stronger me. I had to hit rock bottom, and I had to go through this part in order to come out whole again. So that is the end of chapter 11. Thank you for watching, and tune in tomorrow for chapter 12. That being said, much love. JD out.